Yeah, no, I think it's a good plan.
So if I have the blessing of the commission, I think that we just would like to review this again, maybe June of next year, or this year, I guess it's 2018.
Advertise it for a motion that Kirk absorbs this
Excellent.
and come back around June. And by then you'll determine how things are.
I will.
We'll get a report from you then.
Exactly. I'll do some sort of, I'll try to keep track of what type of hours my office has been spending, maybe try to get some more avenues of where we're sending our community service. That way maybe we have something a little bit more laid out than here's the community service position, good luck fulfilling it, so.
Yeah. And we actually don't need a motion to give you our support on
Okay.
this. If you were trying to add another position, then we would need a motion.
The reason I came here is I just wanted to make sure that there's an opportunity to revisit this, and that if for some reason I find out this is going to take manpower, that all of a sudden the manpower is gone and we can't revisit it again. So I just want to make sure that we have it in the meeting that we're going to revisit this position again in June.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate everybody's time, and I will be in touch with you if you have some good suggestions, because I'm open to anything right now, so.
Well, and unfortunately, you know, part of his what he's seeing is, you know, we have kids out there that consume alcohol on a regular basis, but we have a lot of kids that are out there consuming narcotics, and those go to juvenile court, and those aren't necessarily always put into community service aspects either. So, you know, a lot of our stuff we're dealing with our juveniles on it. What we see a lot of community service is being held in the youth court and justice court. So there's only a couple things that we send juveniles to: MIPs, tobacco violations, gambling violations, fishing, game, and traffic offenses. So it doesn't leave a lot of options to try to help out our youth in their bad decision-making process. So.
And it might be surprising, we don't get that many volunteers coming to the office asking to do community service.
I think volunteerism's going out the window. No one wants to volunteer anymore. So, but we'll get together, we'll hopefully come up with a good plan and this one is advantageous for the county, so.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thank you guys very much.
Share on this.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Happy day, everybody.
Okay, next on the agenda, Craig Burns. You're up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Here are some, just a little printout that I printed here, just where you can kind of look at these questions that I've been looking at. I just kind of poked at some questions that need to be asked about the budget, about the allocation of money for the county attorney as well as the county sheriff. I'll read these just for public. These are something that the public wants to know. We want to know the justification for increase in spending during 2015, 16, and 17, as the population in the county did not increase in parallel to the enforcement increase. We'd like to know the crime statistics for Broadwater County for 2015, 16, and 17. I think that's pretty fair that most counties have that kind of statistics available so that you can see what the span of the enforcement is, and as well as the prosecution of the cases. So we have an idea of what cases are being prosecuted, how, what, and what types they are. We want to know the total cases prosecuted in 2015, 16, and 17. Nobody has a clue how many cases are on the table. We don't know. We don't have a police blogger that's available to say every single call for the entire year, and we also don't have any ability to see of all of the arrests how many are prosecuted. So there's no way to tell that. There's just no way, and that is a number that's directly dependent on the increase of the funds available to the county attorney and the county sheriff. We'd like to know total cases involving state-appointed attorneys, low-income cases specifically. These are cases that have basically people who can't afford an attorney but have ran into law enforcement locally and then are given a state-appointed attorney. We're having cases where the state can't keep up with the amount of attorneys that are needed here in Broadwater, and so the attorneys are not being placed at the proper time. I have one case that I know of right now that was not given due process, and because her lawyer didn't show up in time, her case has been held for 2 months, and it's a child-related case. And I'll keep going with that. Total cases plea bargained. So how many cases in the last 3 years have been plea bargained through this county? How many arrests have we made, and then how many have been have basically been bribed that they're not going to have they're not going to go to trial, they're not going to go see a judge, that the county attorney spoke with them directly, determined that a course of action, and it never saw court. Like noted, total cases involving CPS, super important, especially in my case specifically. Total cases involving violent crimes, total cases involving theft, total cases involving jury trials. Those are pretty much the same thing. Defaulted low-income cases is what's going on. We have a lot of those lately. Total spent by prosecutor's office on non-conviction cases. So how much have we spent in total on cases that never even came to conviction? So they came off free, and there was no charges at the end of it, meaning it was basically determined to not be a grounds for a conviction. Total spent by prosecutor's office on child-related cases. There's a lot of people complaining right now that the sheriff and the county attorney are picking on them and their family. That specifically, whenever an officer comes into a situation, that's one of the first things they look at, and maybe they should, is child welfare, but getting so far into it that they're actually causing disruption in the family, causing separation from the family. So it would be nice to know how many cases are involving children here locally. Total spent by a prosecutor's office on crime inside the city of Townsend. We have an interlocal agreement that has not been signed. And on this interlocal agreement, it states all the money that is going to be spent for the year. We are not, to my knowledge, we are not on the new interlocal agreement that was newly drafted by Mr. Swanson, I believe. We are with the old one, and the old one requires that the sheriff's gives a report to the city for all instances of crime in the city that are reported. It says it right here in reporting. Sheriff shall, from time to time, provide to county and city a report of the activities of the department as may be required by the governing bodies of either entity. The number of calls for service, reported crimes, arrests, and traffic citations. It's the same thing I'm asking for is actually a contract that we're required to give anyways. Also in this agreement, as listed in attachment A, which, and I don't know if this has been signed, I'd like to show this to you, is a listing of the wages by position, as well as the amount of contribution that will be paid by the city for that. So we remember that we don't have any kind of list of what the county services actually are for the city. Zero, none. So that's the amount that's being asked for by the county to sheriff the city. Completely unreasonable. And I would suggest anybody who's watching this video to please come and look at this attachment A. Or attachment B, I'm sorry. Okay, child services rendered to the city of Townsend as accusations of needless child enforcement warrant data collected on sheriff interactions with family, children, and CPS. Again, we have enough child-related and family-related cases now and complaints forward that there's no way to just avoid this. We have to find out why the sheriff is interacting with the children and why they're not following the guidelines of CPS. CPS guidelines are not followed regarding child-related cases, as reported by CPS. If you call CPS, CPS will say that Brooke Dolan and Mr. Swanson are in violation of CPS rules and guidelines for separating children and parents. There's multiple infractions going on right now as we speak. Officer logs including civil interactions regarding the children. Again, we say we have an officer that comes on scene, disturbs the family, and then when we go to find a log for it, there isn't any. So that comes down on the basic line of enforcement from the sheriff themselves and what the officers are doing on the ground. If an officer is going to interact with a family, if an officer is going to disrupt a family, if something happens when the officer's there, the officer is pretty much obligated to write a report for it so that the community can see what's going on with that report. Not just an officer shows up whenever and deals with it and nobody knows. Because that has to do with the budget increasing how much, and we don't even know why. We don't have any reasons why the budget has increased. Guys have just given them more money each year. And last year, we came in $400,000 in the positive, $400,000. But this year, we're asking for more money. So that means that $400,000 went over to the next budget. You guys gave a $1.5 million. That gives an operating budget of $1.9 million for this year, for 2017. And as of 6 months, right now, we are over budget. How's it possible? Okay, and you know, we can say, okay, well, we had an officer that was killed in the line of duty. Well, how much total psychological services were used for all officers on duty after the officer was killed? So it's very common that officers would go to grief counseling, that they would go have psychological services done. There are 0 services done. Nobody, at least on the logs, went to grief counseling after the officer was passed away. So you're saying that everybody in the entire police department, nobody needed grief counseling? That's very hard to believe. How much of budget is subsidized by jail funds? How much of the budget is actually being subsidized by the state funds? And if that's true, how much is the state paying for the jail? And how would we know if the jail and the sheriff are combined together? So how would we know what the state is relieving and what we are relieving? And then we have contributions from the city. How is the city not then at that point paying for state contributions to the jail? If you don't have a separation of payments and everybody's subsidizing everybody, in the end, the person on the low end ends up paying for all these needless things, such as the city of Townsend right now paying for Broadwater County's jail. Why? It's been separated forever in the past, and now it just all of a sudden comes together, and we cannot track any of the funds used in the separation of the two. How much was spent on the jail in 2016, 17, and 18? We don't know, because we don't have separate logs of those. We have every other year, but not 2016, 17, and 18. How much was spent at the sheriff's office in 2016, 17, 18? We don't know, because they're combined into one massive fund. Okay, accountability of Townsend funds from the time period of 2010 through 2000 to the present. I have here an interlocal agreement that states, you know, all these requirements, but it also says that the city is going to pay the county. So the county has been accepting these payments, but in turn does not do anything else on the contract. So it just receives the payment and then says we're not responsible for everything else on the contract, because nothing else in the contract has been upheld. And were the departments combined to leave these questions unanswered? I mean, it seems strange that that in the past these have been separated. You have me complaining as well as other people saying that they're not supposed to be together, and yet here they are together, and nobody can figure out where the funds are going inside of them. So, this is the budget this is the expenditures for 2017. And we have increases that are up to, like on payroll, 107% increase. And that's from the year before. We have, you can look at this. You can go get this anytime you want from Miss Kelly. She works with me all the time to try to get this information, and she's concerned as well. You know, I would encourage each and every commissioner to go and talk to Debbie Kelly directly. Talk to her in her office, have a private meeting, and get her personal thoughts about what's going on with the budgeting process. because everybody in the finance section is concerned about how this money is being spent, allocated, and accounted for, and it's not. And specifically with like services to the city, how do we know what services are being provided to the city? There's no service list. There's absolutely no idea what the sheriff does for the city. Yet the sheriff is requiring, the county is requiring that the city pay for how many officers in there? 3 officers plus percentages of other officers' wages. Yet we can't even say that those 2 officers that we're paying 100% of their wages for, what they're doing the whole year. Is there any case of this in an entire state, in the United States, where we can have a public official with absolutely no listing of what they do for their duties? How is that possible? So, I mean, these are questions that have to be answered. Not we'd like to be answered. They have to, because this is we're missing a lot of money as far as real capital money. Everything has gone into wages, and we have an increase in wages that's unreal, and that's great if there was a crime increase. And if there's a crime increase, then I don't have any complaint. But there's no way to find out crime increase because there's no statistics or data available. I've scoured over everything in the entire county. This is what it has. This is what I have right here, and these are the questions that are asked from this. And when I ask anybody else, they would also like to know. These are pretty general questions about where the public's money is going. We have the sheriff just driving around basically 24 hours a day, but we don't have a blotter. We don't have a list of what they do, and we don't have a list of the specific crimes that were committed within the county for each month, each year. So how do we know what crime is? What are we going on to increase? So last year you guys voted to increase the budget, but we don't have any statistics to say that it should, except for that we ran out of money. And we don't have any other statistics to say that for any other year that we should be funding the police department like we have. Yet this year we're going to ask for more money again, and this is just going to keep going up and up. We don't have any data to say why. Did the population of the county increase? Because if it did, then we need to have an audit done or a census done, and we need to increase taxes. Because you can't lean on the city of Townsend to pay for the county for their wages. You got the city of Townsend blatantly in that document paying for the county's wages. So I would really like some accountability here. I've been asking for it for a year. You guys literally attacked my family, took my family, away from me for 6 months. That's a whole different deal. And I was working on all this when that happened. This is what I was talking about. And I was ready to bring this stuff forward. And then all of a sudden I get attacked by the police department. And 6 months later, here I come and ask for it again. And nothing has still been done. Except for a draft of a document brought up. So after everything that was done, you guys managed to bring up a draft that hasn't even been signed. Has it been signed? Do we know?
The commission signed it. I believe it was on the city's agenda, but I wasn't at the meeting. Do you guys know? Mike?
I thought the city had it signed.
According to them, when I've asked, she did not have any signed documents. This is what she had. This contract is interlocal. It's just as much your responsibility as is the city's. Just as much. The city is just giving everybody a paycheck. That's how they see this. You guys ask for money, they give you a paycheck. So they don't really have a way to get accountability for this money. So for the last 7 years, there's no accountability for any funds that travel into the county. And when you look into how it's added into the budget, it's added as an erroneous charge. It's not given to a specific budget to say this budget is now put aside for the city's law enforcement. No, it's given right into the county's general fund, and poof magic, it's gone. And that's how all the funds from the city have been paid for the last 7 years. Yes, that's exactly how it is, Mike. You can look yourself. I have it right here. And if I didn't have to pay for these things specifically, I would give them to you because you guys have access to them for free. So I don't need to give you guys logs of paperwork that you can get for yourself from from your own government. Here's like something in the paper here. We just got December 28th, Justice of the Peace. Okay, these are all the logs. It says Broadwater County forfeitures, night speeding, and then a big list of them. Yet we have a Montana Highway Patrol right above it. What does the Highway Patrol do then? So we have everybody's patrolling now? So we're asking for more money. We're saying we don't have enough money. But yet we're so extended that we're doubling up over state agencies. So we have so much resources that we're doubling up. Yet we still need more money from the funds. That's what I'm saying. This doesn't make sense. We're so inflated now. You guys can't tell me why we're inflated anymore. Just that we are inflated. And this year, 2018, is the year to find out why we are inflated. That's both the county attorney and the sheriff's office. And it's either going to be you guys to do it, an audit's going to do it, I'm going to do it, the public's going to do it. It's going to be found out where this money is going and why we have such an increase in the last 3 years. And we have no recorded increase in population. So we were saying that we were all 3 years ago completely drowning in crime. Is that what I'm missing? Because I wasn't here. We were drowning in crime, and so that we needed an increase of 100% in spending for that crime. No, we don't even have crime statistics for that time either. So we don't know what crime is in here. And we've had an officer death. It wasn't even related to this county. So we don't know what our citizens are up to and how they're being enforced and what specifically they're being infracted for. We don't know that. We have no information on that. That would be some pretty good information to be able to justify an increase in enforcement. And so if we're going to justify an increase in enforcement, I would like to really see, a population increase, the crime statistics, something. So before you guys start giving out blank checks again for this next year, I'd really appreciate you having some justification for those checks. Because last year's budget went there was no budget done. I know for a fact there was no budget done in the sheriff's last year. As of June or May, when I went and got this from Debbie Kelly, we still had money coming in. We still had money coming in, and we had a $400,000 overage. So we didn't even know how much money came in last year until halfway through the fiscal year. That's kind of ridiculous. We should know what money is coming in, where it's being spent. Basic questions, basic government, basic accountability. This is done all over the nation. So I would expect this to be done here from this point on. And I will do anything in my power to make this happen. I'm not going to stand here and have families attacked and have a common person in this county feel like they're being threatened by law enforcement and there be no accountability for law enforcement. It's not going to happen. I spent 13 years in the military. I was an officer. I have a college degree. I have never seen anything like this before. So this year it's going to stop. This year we're going to get accountability. We're going to wrap it all, put up in a ball, and everybody's going to know what everybody's doing. No, we don't need to know the enforcement routes, but we should probably have some confidence that our law enforcement are patrolling Townsend. We don't know that, except for vocal. Somebody's telling us that they're doing it. We don't have any logs saying that this town is being patrolled, much less the rest of the county. How do we know? We don't. I trust the sheriff and whatever decisions he's going to make, and that's fine because that's his job. But his job is also to report what is going on statistically for the county, and that has not been done. Has not been done for 3 years, and I have been talking about this.
Just in defense, I would say,
please.
Everything is logged in.
We actually have, every week on our Facebook page, all of our data goes out for calls that come in, citations issued, arrests made, how many people are in the detention center. That goes out every week. Statistics, it was last year in January, we did the crime data for 15 and 16. We went from 8,742 calls to 15,000 and change, and this year we're just under 17,000. That stat will come out next week in the paper, this week in the paper. I've been very open and upfront with the disseminating information about what's going on and what's going on in our communities. Mason Moore's death did occur in our county. It wasn't outside of our county. The CPS folks, what they do when we call them, that's up to them. That's not our ball of wax.
That's the problem, you're not calling CPS, you're handling it yourself, in-house. That's what CPS is concerned about.
Well, CPS will call me then because
Right,
and
right, they can call you. Right.
they can always have a conversation. So the data about
That's
what
not how we
goes
handle
on,
the government.
And to go back to your statement about the jail, it was in 2011, the jail was separated from the public safety fund because the fact is that in 2011, no one knew how much that jail cost. So the conversation came up on the table about closing the jail down because no one knew how much it actually cost to operate. So in 2011, it was separated and severed from the public safety fund and created its own identity, and it stayed that way for several years to try to determine and track what it actually cost. And then this year, it got put back under the public safety umbrella, and it actually has its own line item in there, so it determines how much money goes out, and it also has how much money comes in. In regards to your interlocal agreement funds, if you look in the revenue side of the public safety budget, you will find where there's a line item in there for revenue from the interlocal agreement with the city. Now, I had a conversation with the city last year in 16
I was there.
and said, you're more than welcome to hire your own police department, and they all adamantly said no. Interlocal agreements are done all over the state, and I'm actually in a conversation with the mayor of Red Lodge right now because they're trying to do it in Carbon County. Three Forks has an interlocal agreement with the county sheriff down there. Toole County has it. It's not an uncommon practice.
And they do, and they don't report their statistics to the city?
I do, and
Oh,
believe it or
okay.
not, if you were at every meeting that I was at, you would know that people rarely ask me any questions when I go in there. So the amount of information that I'm able to provide without some sort of request is very difficult. I don't have every stat and everything that goes on
Why?
in the county
Why?
memorized.
Why? Why do we not have every stat in the county that goes on?
No, because there's lots of things that go on, Mr. Burns.
I know, that's why I'm asking. Because there's lots of things that go on and you're the only one who can track it. You, one person. You're the only person. Nobody else knows what's going on. You talk a good talk. You talk and you give an excuse for everything, except for when it comes down to paperwork and it comes down for the actual what's going on. I can't find
Well,
anything that you're talking about. Nothing.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about when you say.
I know you don't know what I'm talking about because I've asked this for a year now.
Well, last year I had 95, I spent 95% of my budget. I did not overspend it. I had 200.
No, you underspent it. You underspent it.
And then I had
Yeah.
$272 excess revenue from housing inmates. So at the end of the grand scheme of things, I had $224,000. That was my cash reserves for this budget cycle.
Okay.
This year, and you said I've overspent this year, I'm currently at 46.5% of my budget, which is still under what I'm supposed to be at. So I can appreciate where you're saying that I'm spending too much money, but I'm still under budget.
That's great. I didn't say that you're spending too much money. I said specifically that we cannot account for the money that you're spending. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to limit anybody's amount of spending. If we have 10,000 million calls and we need $1 billion to spend it, fine. That's what we need. Okay? But we have to have paper trails for that. There is no paper trail for 7 years of any action that's happened for the city. So you can talk and you can say, well, we do this and well, we do that. But when we look at paper, we can't find any of it. And you can say, oh, well, I have this in this budget and I've stuck to this budget. But when I look at the paperwork, it doesn't say the same thing as you're saying. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here because, this says something and you say something and they all line up and that's great. And I'm just trying to just cause trouble. I'm trying to bring this up because the things you're saying don't line up with the things that are on this paperwork. And when I talk to Debbie Kelly, she says, and I'm not going to get into this publicly because this is something that you guys need to get involved in, okay? The commissioners. Because when you talk to Debbie Kelly, she is upset about how the budgeting process is going on right now. And so when we have, and we're saying, you've been to how many meetings, city meetings? And of those city meetings, do you tell locally when you're going to be there? Is it in the paper that says Sheriff Wynn is going to be at the meeting?
No,
So how would we know when Sheriff Wynn is going to be at what meeting? How would we know that?
I've asked them to put me on the agenda, Mr. Burns, and they refuse to put me on the agenda. when they want me to come and see them.
Okay.
So I've asked them, so.
I have a meeting with them tonight about
I will be
this.
there as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic, and we're going to talk about the same things. We're going to talk about charges coming from the city and not accounted for by the county for 7 years. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been getting, is that there's really no accountability here for money. It's just you guys saying what you're doing. Nobody in the county wants that anymore. You guys get this? We want paperwork. We want paper with writing on it. We don't want a video log that we can get on and say, well, Sheriff Wynn did say that. Oh, that's great. Sheriff Wynn said that. But we want paperwork that says what you're saying. So, great, that's what you're saying. Fantastic, Wynn. That sounds fantastic. But why doesn't what you're saying match up here?
Craig, if you look at that old contract, that's not signed by me, okay?
Yep.
So that's why we have a new one.
This old contract right here.
Yes. Now, that was signed by a previous sheriff.
It says specifically that it will stay in effect until a new one is.
Yeah, and I said we need a new one, because the fact is that one is very generalized and had no, it had nothing there, and there's no checks and balances. And so if you go back and have a conversation with the city council or the people that were there, you would they would be able to tell you that I've said there needs to be some checks and balances on whether or not I'm performing the duties that you wish, and if not, then there's a conversation that occurs. Hence why they started a subcommittee to work on the local agreement.
You said that if they're not happy with you, that they can be this, that they can have their own sheriff. You just said that too, and I was there when you said that. You said if you're not happy with the services that I give, then you guys can have your own. Then you can hire your own. You're threatening. You're threatening to leave the city without a law enforcement, and the city is helpless when it comes to law enforcement. They have insurance that requires them to have law enforcement. So they can't be flexible on this. They can't just say, oh, you know what, you guys aren't doing a great job, we want to quit this. They can't. Because their insurance requires them to have continuous law enforcement, period. So if there was going to be a break in law enforcement, it would have to have you guys being law enforcement all the way up until a new law enforcement took over for the city. So there would have to be even a buffer in between that. And the way you're acting, you would rather drop them cold turkey or just have them accept what duties you do. That's what you've said.
So what do you think I do? Because I don't know what the stats are for this.
I have no clue what you
But
do specifically, that's for
The last 2
sure.
years, one, I spent 56% of my time in the city limits. That's my department, my agency. The year before that was 54%. So the conversation piece when I went to the city council is the fact is I'm spending over 50% of my time in the city limits of Townsend dealing with traffic complaints and crimes, and you guys pay less than an eighth of my budget, and you take up less than a third of the population of this county. So that was a conversation piece on why we talked at numbers. So then you go back and talk to everybody down there and they'll tell you the same thing. So.
I know everybody does tell me the same thing. This is a big circle and there's no public accountability. That's why I'm here, because I keep getting told the same thing. The interlocal agreement specifically says that you're going to give a report back. Even this new one says you're going to give a report back. Have you given a report to the city to tell them what exactly services you're rendering them for 2016?
Last time I was there, it's a couple months ago.
Did you, a printed one? So we have a printed version of services rendered.
I don't think it asks for a printed copy of a report. That's never been done in the time.
This is my
I've been
point.
here.
This is not, government is not run vocally, okay? Government is run with paper. Paper. And you don't have paper to back up the things you're saying. If you have paper to back up the things you're saying, I would be quiet. I really would. But you don't. You're just talking. And these things, the reports that you're required to give back per this agreement are not completed. They have not been completed. Yet you have all these other reasons and justifications for not spending the money, or for the city of Townsend spending the money that they are for your department. So, why is the city? Can I have that piece of paper back, Miss Over?
Sure.
Why is the city responsible here? Because I'm sure you're involved with this new contract. This has the city responsible for 10% of the sheriff's wages, 10% of the undersheriff's wages, 50% of the senior deputy's wages, that's $29,000. Deputy 1's full 100%, $54,000. Deputy 2, 100%, $55,000. Dispatcher number 1, its own dispatching system, $37,000. And part-time special event deputy, 50% of that at $12,000. And overtime for deputies at 24% at $482. For a total of $212,000 in salary that is going to be charged to the city for services rendered to the city. Okay, then we have a patrol car at 50% at $46,000 for $23,000 by the city. When that actually posted, it actually came in as $52,000. So it actually posted $7,000 more than what you even have on here. For a total agreement of $235,000. Then we're going to add on attachment B, which is the law enforcement services agreement, and that adds, and it totally doesn't even say it. It says 2016 actual $39,000. Add 26.91 mils of $48,000 with a total contribution of the city of Townsend to the county of Broadwater County of $325,000 and $10.40. And you have no services listed as rendered.
Craig, first off, if you check your other old contract, you're not gonna find any of that document, right? You're not
Right.
gonna find anything in that previous contract that says what the city of Townsend was paying. So number two, when you look at the bottom of that sheet, kind of thing that you just read off, that last part is what the city taxpayers contribute to law enforcement as a county as a whole, because they're all required. So
Right.
there's no separate mill for the detention center anymore, so you didn't see
Right.
that, but the county's responsible for paying for their own inmates. So that's where the city taxpayers come into play.
City taxpayers are paying for the county's jail.
Everybody pays for the county's jail.
But the city pays for county taxes separately and then pays for its own taxes, which then go so, yes, that is very true. The city pays for taxes twice. Yes. Paying your salaries here. That's what this is your suggestion. This is not what's going on right now. Okay, this is a suggestion. This is what was suggested by you and the county lawyer. Okay? What is being paid right now is a total of $18,000 per month with an increase of, I want to say, like 2% every time, which comes up to roughly the exact amount. So what we've done here, what you guys have done here, is that you guys have taken what you've billed in the past, taken that total amount, and then now broken it down so that we can see what that total amount that was paid in the past would be now being paid. So this is to say, this is what you think the city should pay instead of what they're paying right now. That's what this is. Literally, that's what it is. Okay, so the county's payment, or the city's payment, has been $18,000 per month, and it just keeps going up. And then plus it has a vehicle that it throws in between.
That's been that way for years.
That's great. I know it's been that way. It's been
And the
wrong
thing is,
for years.
And the increase in it this year was because of the sheriff's retirement bill that passed through legislation. It was a 3% employer contribution increase, and it was a 1.25% increase to employee. That was the increase came from this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're just common increases. That's great, but we're talking about the actual allocation of money and where this allocation of money is going. And this right here states that you're going to have the city pay for, how many officers? Basically, 3 full-time officers, 2 part-time officers, and a quarter of the overtime. But you can't tell me what they're going to do in Townsend. That's what I'm trying to get at.
50% of my time in Townsend on calls. I have 28 employees.
That's great, then log it. That's just log it. Just put it down. Just log it. Just say, so and so spent this much time right here, and then we'll know. But we don't know.
I have 17,000 calls a year. I don't have time to be writing down who drove up and down 4th Street.
Right. So you don't have accountability of your forces. That's what you're telling me. You don't have accountability. That's why I'm here. Accountability. He's stating it. He doesn't have accountability. That's all I'm looking for. That's all anybody in the county is looking for. We're not trying to limit your amount of money. We're not trying to get people killed. We're not trying to make people miserable. We're trying to figure out where the money went. And as testimony right here, all it is a circle of trying to explain where it went when really there's no paper trail where it went. And we work with paper trails in the government. Paper trails. And there's no paper trails. So start generating some paper trails, because it's your job, and it's in your agreement, both of these agreements, to generate paper trails for the city. And I'll be addressing the same thing tonight with the city of there being no paper trail generated for this. You can't justify an increase of what you've done in the last 3 years. There's absolutely no population increase. So why did crime?
Population increase where? In the city of Townsend or in the county?
Both.
Really?
Yeah.
If you travel to the south end of the county, there's 80 new homes down there.
I don't need to look. It's about paper. We don't look off of what we look. I don't drive down the road and go, look, looks like 50 new houses. There must be more taxes that we need to be paying. No. It's about how people are logged in, individual people paying their individual taxes and individual census of this county. That's how we tell how many people are here. Not by driving down the road and going, wow, it looks like a bunch of people moved in. No, that doesn't count. Sorry. So unless there is a census that shows that there is an increase of the exact amount that you increased too much. That's just all it is right now. Okay? Population, we had law enforcement before you got here, and now we have law enforcement that's literally inflated, what, 25%, maybe more? So all I want is a paper trail. That's all I want, a paper trail. For you, the guy after you, the guy after you, the guy after that, for my kids to know. So that I don't have to do this, so that nobody ever has to do this again. So just make a paper trail, so that we can see what money you're spending in Townsend. So that we can see that the citizens of Townsend are actually getting their town patrolled. Because right now, the complaint is they're not. And from any logs or anything that anybody can read anywhere, you're not. So you can say it, you can state anything you want publicly. But unless there's paperwork for it, it's just talking.
So a newspaper article is going to make you feel better?
It's your wife's newspaper article.
I know it is.
So, yeah, it does. I'm a county citizen. This is one of my only ways to tell what's going on. And the county is responsible for updating this paper so that people in the county can tell what's going on. Yes, this paper would make me feel better if things were published in it that were supposed to be. Yeah, everybody would. But they're not. You're stating the same things as the Highway Patrol does.
Yeah,
They're like, look, we did night speeding.
Hey, Craig, since you weren't here, when I got here 17 years ago, there was 3 troopers.
I was born here.
Well,
what do you mean I wasn't here? So what we weren't hanging out together?
Craig, there was 3 troopers here. The state of Montana is cutting back to 1. So I have 1 trooper who's usually spending her time in Park County and Gallatin County. So that's why we have to have some enforcement. But you're more than welcome to go talk to the colonel and say, Colonel, we need more troopers down in Townsend, Montana. And I'm sure he'll jump to get on top of it.
See how you talk like that? Do you think anybody respects you when you talk to me like that?
Well,
That's
you know,
ridiculous.
you're-
I don't talk to you like that. And you know what? I've been respectful for you. I'm just not respectful for your duties. But you get personal. You get, and it's
How is that
weird.
personal?
I can feel free to go talk to the colonel, huh?
More than welcome.
Well, right. I know I can. I'm here in front of a commission meeting. I'm sure I can go talk to a colonel. So what does that have to do with anything? You're the sheriff, okay? You're the one who makes this stuff play out. And all you're doing is giving excuses instead of saying why we're not doing this. You're not actually saying why these things are not being done. You're just giving an excuse of what you think you did in its place. Thank you very much for your time. I hope to not just keep doing this, but guess what? I will keep doing this over and over and over again as much as we need to until everybody's ears are bleeding from this problem, if that's what it needs to be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
That's our agenda. Do hospital people have something to bring up here, or we're,
Well,
I think there might be a mix-up in time here. We're supposed to be here at 12:30, right? To talk about the mill levy, request. Or is
No,
that
we had
Wednesday
the
at
mill
12?
levy on at, 10:30
Tomorrow or today?
today.
Oh. Somebody told me it was 12:30. No, I'm sorry. Did we get it done?
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay.
Sorry, especially to my two board members who has to come in and talk about too long of a Christmas vacation. All right, sorry.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions or comments on how things are going?
You know, the question was brought up again about the $1 million investment.
Yes.
I tried to answer the gentleman's question. I don't do it nearly as well as you guys do. Could you maybe put some more into the newspaper? Also, Commissioner Salifka said he got 200 calls on the investment. Maybe you could help educate people on what the realities and the facts were of that.
All right. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything else?
I do.
Okay.
Have you guys heard anything from Harold Gibbs about the TV district?
No.
We agreed that we were going to ask him to fill out some reports that have to be done monthly. I haven't heard anything either. I'm worried about those reports.
Okay.
So that's something we need to follow through on and have a discussion on. And then I also want to talk about a personnel issue that we have that came up last week. We got an email, and based on the fact that their rights far outweigh the rights of the public to know, I would like to ask for a closed door to make sure that we're all communicating. That's all I have.
So we'll go ahead.
I have just two things. One, the BLM contract, so for the radio tower sites. So I've gone in and did that. They sent a thing to me about the bill part, but I believe that's on the TV district, and that's something you guys take care of. But yes, for the permit part of that, or maybe it's internet, Debbie had it as well, so I just didn't know if that was handled. Number two, Debbie Rucko, who retired from the county, her husband passed away yesterday. So if
Oh my gosh.
if you feel inclined, maybe send them a card. She unfortunately passed away yesterday morning, so maybe you just want to share that. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
so, and if there's any other issues with my spending, please feel free to come see me. So,
Thanks, Wynn.
thank you.